and it is my honor to welcome you here today for this celebration of Dr. King's legacy. We are overjoyed to be back in person. It's been 3 years. We used to come here every year, and we are so grateful to be here. So I want to start by thanking all of you. There's a million ways you can celebrate the holiday today, that you chose to come out to this beautiful center and hear from these amazing young artists means the world to all of us. So thank you. I have a few other thank yous I have to get to, including the young artists you're about to see. There is no better way to reflect on Dr. King's legacy than to hear from incredible, courageous young people talking about what it means to them in 2023. And that is what you're going to hear. These folks just uplift humanity in the best possible way, and we're so grateful to all of them. I want to thank our funders who make it possible, starting with Vicki and Howard Palefsky, who have endowed this program, so it will always be around. We need to thank AT&T, the Coca-Cola, Georgia Pacific Foundations, the Molly Blanc Fund, and the Zeiss Foundation. And then, of course, the artists who make it possible, starting with our director, Mr. Patrick McColery, Associate Director, Sound Designer, Rodney Williams, our producer, Liz Davis, and the lead artist on this project, who has been doing this for the last 13 years. She is a Dramatist Guild Lifetime Achievement Award winner. She is our city's first poet laureate. She's the Distinguished Artist in Residence at the Alliance Theater, and she is here with us today, the one and only Pearl Cleage.
Thank you all so much for being with us. We have really missed being here in person. Virtual is great, but it ain't the same as being in a room full of people. And we really appreciate you coming. These young people that you're going to see are part of something that we do with the Alliance called the Palefsky Collision Project. And we bring together 20 young people from Metro Atlanta, and they work together for 3 weeks in the summer. And they get to know each other, they get to know the text that we're using, and then they do a show at the end of 3 weeks. And then those who have not gone off to college or moved on to some other place come back for King Day. And they have been working for 1 week. They write a new show. All of this show is based on things that they've written. They actually wrote all of this in a week. So we put it together because we wanted to come here to the center and to honor Dr. King. And I told them, and I always feel this, that there is no greater honor as an artist than to be here in Dr. King's hometown on King Day, talking about what his life still means to all of us. And we can't do it without you. So I really appreciate all of you being here. Thank you for coming, and please enjoy the show.
Treatise of the land of inequity, of thee I sing. Land where my mothers cried, fought, bled, and sacrificed for rights which we are now denied. Let freedom ring. Land of dystopia, religious myopia, I mourn for thee. Behind dusty oaken doors, 6-robed dinosaurs conspire to wage a holy war over our bodies. But the true bell of liberty, she does not mute easily, long may she ring. Her echoes will amplify, marching till morning light, all genders side by side, till freedom rings.
In the sincerest effort to gain further understanding of the history that has brought us to reside on this land, and to accept the knowledge that colonialism is a current and ongoing process, which we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation, we hereby acknowledge this native land of the Muskogee Creek Nation.
We also acknowledge that the pre-Civil War economies of this region depended on the unpaid labor of enslaved African people, and later on African American people, until they were emancipated by presidential proclamation in 1863 and the 13th Amendment in 1865.
Welcome to King Day 2023.
We must work through the courts, through legislation, through the ballot. This is what we've been talking about over these last few meetings, the necessity of registering and the necessity of voting. And this is one of the most significant steps that the Negro can take at this hour, going to the ballot box. But I would like to give you a warning signal. I tried to talk in militant terms for the last few minutes. But in the midst of this militancy, let us always realize that we don't have to hate as we try to straighten this situation out. Let us always realize we don't have to become bitter as we try to straighten this situation out. No, my friends, if there is any one thing that I would like for you to remember this evening, it is the fact that somebody must have some sense in this world. Somebody must have sense enough to meet hate with love. Somebody must have sense enough to meet physical force with soul force. If we will but try this way, we will be able to change these conditions and yet at the same time win the hearts and souls of those who have kept these conditions alive. And I know the temptation. I know the temptation which comes to all of us. We've been trampled over so long. I know the temptation. All of us, we've seen the viciousness of lynching mob with our own eyes. We've seen police brutality in our own lives. We are still the last card in the first five. So many doors are closed in our faces. And that is a temptation for us to end up with bitterness. And I understand these people who have ended up in despair. I understand why there are some who have been a little misguided and they've ended up feeling that the problem can't be solved within, and so they talk about racial separation rather than racial integration. I understand their response. I have analyzed it psychologically and I understand it. But in spite of the fact that I understand it, I must say to them in patient terms that that isn't the way. I must say to them in patient terms that black supremacy is as dangerous as white supremacy. And God is not interested merely. God is not interested merely in the freedom of black men and brown men and yellow men. But God is interested in the freedom of the whole human race and the creation of a society where all men will live together as brothers. No, we need not hate. We need not use violence. That is another way. A way as old as the insights of Jesus of Nazareth. As modern as the techniques of Mohandas K. Gandhi. That is another way. A way as old as Jesus saying, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Pray for them that despitefully use you. And as modern as Gandhi saying through Thoreau, non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. That is another way. A way as old as Jesus saying, turn the other cheek. And when he said that, he realized that turning the other cheek might bring suffering sometimes. He realized that it may get you home bombed sometimes. He realized that it may get you stabbed sometime. He realized that it may get you scarred up sometime. He was saying in substance that it is better to go through life with a scarred up body than a scarred up soul. That is another way. This is what we've got to see. No, that is a power in this way. If we will follow this way, we will be the participants in a great building process that will make America a new nation. And we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. This is our challenge. This is the way we must grapple with this dilemma. And we will be a great people. And let us have faith in the future. I know it's dark sometimes. And I know all of us begin to ask, how long will we have to live with this system? I know all of us are asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men, darken their understanding and drive bright-eyed wisdom from her sacred throne? When will wounded justice, lying prostrate on the streets of our cities, be lifted from this dust of shame to reign supreme among the children of men? Yes, when will the radiant star of hope be plunged against the nocturnal bosom of this lonely night, and pluck from weary souls the manacles of death and the chains of fear? How long will justice be crucified and truth buried? How long? I can only answer this evening, not long.
Ayibabo, Ayibabo hita, Ayibabo, Ayibabo hita, Ayibabo, Ayibabo hita, Ayibabo, Ayibabo hita, Ayibabo.
Stop! What are we doing? We're celebrating Dr. King. It's his birthday, remember? That's not what I meant. I mean, what are we singing? A freedom song? That's not a freedom song. Didn't it make you feel free?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Didn't it make you feel brave and strong and ready for whatever was to come next?
Yes, but, well, isn't that what a freedom song is supposed to do? Yes. But I thought on King Day we were supposed to look back, to think about our history, to think about Dr. King.
I love Dr. King, and I respect what he did, but I'm tired of always looking back. I want to talk about right now.
Can't we do both?
Not at the same time.
Sure we can. We are the generation known for our ability to do 10 things at once.
And do them well.
We can start in Selma, Alabama.
Selma had a storm last week that wasn't about marches and demonstrations and state troopers at the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
It was about climate change.
Something else that we have to work on.
Okay, getting back to Dr. King. After we all watched the movie Selma the other day, I couldn't help but feel let down. Not by the movie, it was informative and amazing, but by the education system. I am embarrassed to say I am 17 years old and I am just learning that there were 3 planned marches from Selma to Montgomery. In school, it was taught just so quick and simple. Dr. King and his people rallied, they marched, and he gave a speech. That's it, and that's all. But that's not it. I didn't know about the struggles those people faced just to walk across the bridge. I didn't know Dr. King was being watched and listened to by the FBI. I learned so many things watching that movie that I thought I should have already known. When I got home, I told my dad how I felt, and he said, if there are things about my people's history that I want to know, then I have to go looking for them by myself because no one at school will teach the whole truth. But why not? How can I go to a school and take an American history class without going into depth about slavery, the civil rights movement, and the brave people who fought for the basic human rights so many of us take for granted every day? I can't imagine a world where I wouldn't be able to sit at a lunch counter or where segregation and Jim Crow laws were in full effect. I can't even begin to imagine.
Well, we can try, can't we?
How are we going to do that?
Close your eyes. It's Saturday, March 6, 1965, and everyone's talking about the march that's going to happen tomorrow.
There have been mass meetings at the church every night this week.
And tomorrow, we're going to start marching from Selma to Montgomery, right across the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
We're going to do no such thing. Eat your dinner.
I'm trying to join. The march is tomorrow, and I'm trying to convince my parents to let me join, even if it is last minute. I have been waiting for the day to walk, to hear King's voice, to be inspired to fight, to be at the finish line, to tell my kids, who can tell their kids, and on, and on, and on. Dr. King says it only takes one person to make a difference, but my parents are scared I'll get hurt. There's been so many leaders and organizers getting killed recently. I'm a little scared too. Just 2 years ago, 4 little girls got killed in a church at Birmingham. At church! But this march is gonna be different. I just know it.
This isn't a yearly festival. This is a date in history.
My town will never be the same.
Selma's population must have doubled, tripled overnight. I can't help but wish the march wasn't all that was on our minds. I wish this was a boring Sunday with an easy Sunday morning approaching.
All my friends are going to the march, but Mama, she said no. Said it was too dangerous. My siblings are content at just staying at home and watching on TV. But I can't. I can't just watch as my people are beaten and taken from this earth one by one. I won't. So I decided I'm going to the march anyways. I left a note for my family telling them if any harm should come to me, it won't have been in vain. I hear you gotta be willing to die for the things you believe in. And I am prepared to do so.
I genuinely wish I could describe how I'm feeling right now. My parents are going to the march. My older brother and sister are going to the march. They have the choice, but I don't. They're adults. I can't go march because my parents want to keep me safe. They saw what happened at the night marches, and they fear that I could be next. I promise you, if I could march, I would, but my parents aren't willing to risk it. They say that they love me too much to let me go fight. They say that they love me too much to let me go die.
John Lewis says you have the right to protest for what is right. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to say something. You have to do something. You have to push and pull and be prepared to make a little noise. When you see something that is not the way it should be, don't be afraid. Speak up. Speak out. Be courageous. It's a total commitment. No compromise. Just go for it.
My friends are planning to march. I'm going to join them. I want to go down in history as one of the people making change, not one of those turning a blind eye. My parents are scared for me. They say it's too dangerous out there. Well, it's too dangerous everywhere.
Dr. King knew the danger we would be facing. 100 times I have been asked why we have allowed little children to march in demonstrations, to freeze and suffer in jails, to be exposed to bullets and dynamite. The answer is simple, he wrote. Our children and our families are maimed a little every day of our lives. If we can end an incessant torture and a single climactic confrontation, the risks are acceptable.
My mother didn't see it that way.
White hair, white skin, white teeth, black tears and black fear. Beautiful black soul whisked away to nowhere. Dwelling, resting, dying, little black ballerinas twirling alone, audience of one. A leap, a twirl, a balance, teetering on the edge of something unknown. Little black babes with little black books, worn and older than they are. A verse, a song, a letter, praying for protection from something unseen.
We got on our feet, we fought for our rights, we marched in the streets all day, all night.
But now it's Sunday morning, at last!
Before we went, they had a meeting at the church, and we were getting all spirited up and saying we weren't gonna let anyone turn us around. I had led the song too. It's one of my favorite tunes. Everybody had gotten really spirited up. I got a lot of complaints about people saying I'm too small, but that didn't bother me, because I was gonna do it anyway.
As we formed our line and began our descent from the church, my earlier burst of confidence had dwindled. I'm nervous, sweating, nearly sick to my stomach. But that don't matter now. I'm here and we are not turning around. All was well the first few blocks we walked, but I could sense something more was coming when we got to the bridge.
When we got up there, the troopers told us to get back. They said this march is over, but we were still singing and all. Then they let the tear gas go, and that's when I started running. There were some horses. They told us to move back, but we couldn't. I can't even really express how it was.
I was up toward the front and everything. I was running. I was afraid. Hosea Williams picked me up, but I told him to put me down because he was running too slow. Tears were splattered everywhere, and I ran all the way home. Everybody was running, you know? I was calling my mother and father, and when I came to the door, I was there with tears in my eyes because it was something I can't ever forget. I just didn't think people could really be done certain ways. Now I see how it is. I saw how it was.
I just cannot believe how hateful people can be toward us.
Dr. King said, forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant attitude.
We are making our way over. Can you hear the sound of new roots being planted firmly in the ground? Lord, we ask for guidance as we march along.
about civil rights.
He spoke out against the war in Vietnam.
Spoke up for poor people and demanded better jobs and higher wages for working people.
He cared about economic justice.
When he was killed, he was organizing the Poor People's Campaign.
We ought to come in mule carts and old trucks and any type of transportation we can get our hands on. Dr. King said we ought to come to Washington and sit down if necessary in the middle of the street and say, we are here, we don't have any money, you have made us this way. And we are here and we come to stay until you do something about it.
After his death, the march went on his plan.
He intended to bring thousands of people to Washington, D.C. so they could meet their elected officials. And so their elected officials could meet them, face to face, American to American.
Sometimes being poor in America is like being invisible.
Dr. King wanted to shine a light so we could see each other better.
He wanted people to walk a mile in their neighbor's shoes.
I never really had anything I wanted to give you my everything.
You took me for granted, but I do it all over again, just to be by your side.
You told me I was enough, but you really wanted more, and I cared too much, greater than I did before. I tried my hardest, but these are major shoes to fill. I bleed every time you use your words to cut me, but every scar strengthens my heartbeat. I'm not perfect, but you don't know how hard it is to love you. Could you take a step in my minimum wage shoes? Material things, they never really meant much to me, but I gave the whole world to you. But I will never be free. You told me I was enough, but you really wanted more, and I cared too much, greater than I did before. I tried my hardest, but these are major shoes to fill. I bleed every time you use your words to cut me, but every scar strengthens my heartbeat. I'm not perfect, but you don't know how hard it is to love you. Could you take a step in my minimum wage shoes?
I can't decide what's wrong, what's right, which way
Should I go? This is the time to say goodbye. That's right, I'm letting go. I bleed every time you use your words to cut me, but every scar strengthens my heartbeat. I'm not perfect, but you don't know how hard it is to love you. Could you take a step in my minimum wage shoes?
What do you think Dr. King would say about how we're living now?
I wonder if you can even imagine what our daily lives would look like.
So much violence that we're starting to think it's normal. Mass shootings are horrific, but not rare.
Sometimes America feels broken.
How can we make him understand what it feels like to start having active shooter drills in elementary school?
It wasn't even strange. It was just something we learned to do, like riding a bike.
I've been doing shooter drills since I was 5 years old, so I've gotten used to them. It's so different hearing teachers talk about how they never used to do drills like this in school until after Columbine. Frankly, I never even knew what happened at Columbine until I was in middle school. We were always doing the drills, but nobody ever really explained why. It was more like school shootings are very real, they have happened before, and will probably continue to happen, so be prepared.
On the way to the worst class of the day, 4th grade math, the principal's voice blasted through the speakers, shouting at us to get into our classrooms and proceed to our level 3 lockdown positions. We were still kids who used finger guns to make jokes and pretend to kill our friends. To us, the drill was a joke, just a convenient way to waste class time. slipped into our respective classrooms, closed the blinds, shut off the lights, and got into a corner, out of view from the windows and doors. We sat in the corner, whispering the latest fourth grade drama and giggling. They did this thing where they banged on the door really hard, and that scared us, and we got quiet. After 20 minutes, we got nervous. After 30 minutes, we knew something was wrong. At the hour mark, we experienced a new feeling, pure panic. Finally, the principal came on the intercom to announce that we performed amazingly in our level 3 lockdown drill. We didn't understand it until we were making cards saying, "Pray for Sandy Hook."
On December 14th, 2012, I was 3 months into my year-long stay in Tokyo with my grandparents, away from my immediate family. My first birthday there, at 9 years old. That day I learned that 20 children in Connecticut would never spend another birthday. The Japanese news does a much better job at covering international news than the US, I think. I got pretty good at identifying which countries were which that year. Grainy footage of a sea of robotic bodies with black bowl cuts would tell me North Korea. Navy blue police helmets along the Champs-Elysees would tell me France. This day, the flashing blue lights in the darkness told me this was a story of America.
The first safety training I had was in 5th grade. Our school had this intercom system that was in every classroom. It was silent most of the time, but one day it let out the most ear-splitting siren. It flashed and a white light encased the whole room. My teacher told us to get under our desks. We did, and she turned the lights off. It was so cold under there. There were crumbs and crayon shavings that were digging into my knees, and old gum touching the top of my afro puff. I wasn't scared though, just uncomfortable. Turns out it was a bomb drill. I was skeptical that hiding under a desk would save us from a bomb.
Over my birthday cake, I went over in my head the drills I had been learning at school since kindergarten. Huddle over by the wall against the door so we'd be out of sight. Our teacher would open the door to check the hallways and go over to the windows to close the blinds. I always thought, what's the point? The bad people would see that our tables were scattered with crayons. They'd see our lunch boxes lined up on the cubbies on the wall facing the door. Absolutely useless. But I still went over the steps in my head. I can't forget the rules of America during my time away. The drills at my elementary school in Tokyo are different, of course. We have earthquakes and removable cushions on the backs of our chairs to cover our heads with. We have tsunamis and swimming pools at school to teach kids to swim young. The schools there do everything to protect us kids. I think I felt safe. My other home country's doing something wrong.
And it's not just the drills nowadays. You have to be on your toes the minute you walk outside. I can't even sit on my bus without hearing about some violence that's taking place. Why is a kid younger than me comfortable with saying that he has a gun in his backpack and wants to shoot someone? I don't remember us fighting for equal education just to get told the cost of our education was risking our life.
When I turned 11, I moved to South Bend, Indiana. I rode the bus to school, and one day, a student brought their mom's gun into the school, threatening to shoot the teachers and anyone else they felt like. We just had to wait on the bus. I waited until they arrested the student, and I wasn't scared. I just said a prayer for the teachers. Looking back on it, it's crazy how all of this was just routine.
Last year at school, it was a regular day. We just come from lunch maybe 10 minutes earlier, and we were sitting in the classroom quietly. When all of a sudden, a red light started flashing from the ceiling, and a voice repeated, "This is a lockdown drill. Follow all lockdown procedures." I was sitting right next to the wide open door. My heart was beating out of my chest. My teacher ran from her desk to go lock the door, but she had to go outside of it to lock it. My classmates sat and watched her struggle for 30 seconds, yelling and laughing. Only me and one other girl moved. I hid behind a big group of people because in my head, I was preparing to hide behind a dead body.
One day at school, one of my friends asked me if my brother was okay. I had no idea what he was talking about until he told me that there was a school shooting at his elementary school. Some 14-year-old boy was sitting in the neighborhood that surrounded the campus, shooting at the children as if they were ducks for him to hunt. My little brother was shot in the chest with a BB gun. We used to joke about BB guns and how they didn't really hurt, but my brother made it clear to me that that was probably the most painful experience of his life. And every day when I play that back in my head, I wonder what would have happened if that was a real gun in his hand.
A lot of people say you should follow run, hide, fight in an active shooter drill. Your first reaction is to try to run as far away as you can and get out of the building if you can. If that's not possible, then hide. But hide where? Schools weren't exactly built for people to have privacy, so you'd have to hide under a desk and wait like sitting ducks, hoping your classroom isn't chosen. And if none of that works, they say fight. Pick up a pencil, scissors, anything you can. But what can I do with a pencil when an automatic rifle is being pointed at me?
The possibility of an active shooter has changed the way I do certain things at school. I don't use my headphones in both ears so that I'm able to hear any gunshots or screams. I always try to sit in the back corners, and I do my best to never have to leave during class in fear that I'll end up alone in the hallways, locked out of every single classroom.
1 year ago, my school had a gun threat, and it was one of the most scariest moments of my life. Seeing my friends scared, wondering if they were alive or dead, all these thoughts ran through my head while I'm hiding in a corner of a random room that I ran into. The thought of dying was so real. I wasn't ready. I still had to be a senior. I still had to go to college. I still had to find love. I still had to have kids. 16 years old, preparing to die. I was not ready.
It's not fair. I'm angry, and I'm tired of always having to hear about how much the world has changed. How my parents used to hang out with their friends and do stupid stuff. I wanted that. I wanted that. I deserved that. I deserve that.
What is it with guns? Why do you need guns? I can't go outside without being targeted, and if I stay inside, there's a possibility of an active shooter. Nobody wants to tell us what kind of danger we're in to keep us from causing a panic. Why is the first thought during a school drill always, what's the last thing I'll say to my mom, my dad, my family?
We are all human beings, we're all one, we all have feelings. Peace and change is what we're needing. We are all
human beings. We're all one, we all have feelings. Peace and change is what we're needing. We are all.
Sometimes we forget that this is all our home. At the end of the day, no one should be alone. We'll keep fighting and trying, our justice will come. No peace till we're equal, no peace till we've won.
We are all human beings. We're all one, we all have feelings. Peace and change is what we're needing. We are all.
The skin of a person should never alter your opinion of them or their worth. Why do you care if their gender's the same? They're in love, there's nothing you can do. Here are names.
We are all human beings. We're all one, we all have feelings. Peace and change is what we're needing. We are all.
Mother Nature didn't bless us with the earth just to spread all this hate and completely destroy her. We bleed the same, we all cry tears, we should be ashamed. We've lived too long in fear.
We are all human beings.
We are
Growing up in Troy, Alabama, I would see signs that said whites and coloreds. I'd ask my parents and grandparents about these, and they would just say, that's just the way it is. They told me, don't get into any trouble. Don't upset the order of things. But then I heard about Rosa Parks. She got into good trouble. She wouldn't move to the back of the bus, which led to the Montgomery bus boycott. She launched the movement by doing what she knew in her heart was right. I met Rosa Parks in 1957, when I was just 17. And I met Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. the year after, when I wrote him a yellow letter.
Dear Dr. King, my name is Tylia Yarman. I'm from a small town in Ohio, but I now reside in your home state, Georgia. I'm a senior in high school, and I'll be heading to college in the fall. I'm going to major in media studies and minor in performing arts. Acting is my passion, but I've been told it won't pay the bills. Anyways, I want to tell you how our country's doing since you've been gone. I am happy to report a lot of positive progress. We elected our first ever African-American president, Mr. Barack Obama, who served 2 consecutive terms. We currently have our first ever female vice president, who also is African-American. We have gotten so much diversity in Congress, and we have raised the black voter turnout tremendously. We also have a lot of positive representation of ourselves, our work, and our culture in the media.
Hello, Dr. King. My name is Eartha Anthony Smith IV. It is an honor to be writing you this letter. To know that you made the effort and risked everything to improve black people's lives has inspired me in so many ways. Thank you so much for allowing someone like me to get a better education, to be able to achieve any goal I want. Because of you, I know nothing is impossible. Your dream is slowly but surely becoming a reality day by day. Our new generation will make sure that we progress and grow more and more. Thank you, Anthony.
Greetings, Dr. King. My name is MacArthur Davis Jr. I live in your hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. I'm writing this letter because as the year changes from 2022 to 2023, I realize that since you've been taken from us, your dream has just unraveled. It's like you left it for people to do what they want with it, and that's exactly what they've done. Police brutality is the biggest problem among us, and school shootings are common, and that's a big problem too. As the leader of the movement, you stayed up 24/7, organizing by day, preaching or studying by night. You gave other people inspiration to fight, to vote, to protest, and we still need to do all those things. But we gotta figure out how to get everybody on board. If you have some activism advice or some tips on how, I'd appreciate it. With love, MacArthur.
Dear Dr. King, I am Jada Borgward, huge fan of your work. America has definitely made a good amount of progress since the civil rights movement, but we also keep going backwards. Police brutality has skyrocketed. The murders of Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin are the earliest memories in my mind of actually realizing the dangers of police in America. When the murder of George Floyd was reported and circulated online, people everywhere began protesting for black rights. That's when I believe the Black Lives Matter movement had the most support and attention. Young people across the nation and throughout the world were protesting. This really solidified my hope in my generation. I think we are finally realizing the power of our voice. We are change makers. We are building the country up with lawmakers who are introducing bills that bring the country toward a better future. We even have our first black female Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Her decisions will affect millions of people's lives.
Dear Dr. King, my name is Kana Nagata. You and I share a hometown. I've grown up being driven on roads named in your honor. I have a winter birthday too, almost exactly a month before yours. Each year I get older, and then I go and learn more about you in school and in the media on the day that celebrates your birth and life. We can also never forget how it ended, though. I just turned 19, and I finally realized how young 39 is. I'll have to study more on how you were as a teenager. I somehow find it hard to imagine you outside of the specific era of the United States history you appear in. Part of what I've learned this past week is that the leaders printed in our history books are all just human. Mortal, joyful, scared, and brave humans who wanted long and peaceful lives with their families. These people were once young children and teenagers growing up during frightening times, times of unrest and injustice. I have to remind myself that at one point, the greatest leaders of our history were once confused, curious, determined youth, searching for truth and what it means to be just.
Dear Dr. King, my name is Amari Lewis, and I'm writing to you from Atlanta, Georgia. The country is holding up, some could say better than when you last saw it. I go to school with a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures. My friend Jana is Vietnamese, and my friend Aiden is Polish. In 2020, the police killed a black man named George Floyd by stepping on his neck until he couldn't breathe. We watched it on the TV. Breonna Taylor died in her bed, was shot and killed. Trayvon Martin was shot and killed. Dante Wright, Andrew Hill, Manuel Harris, all killed by the police in the last decade or so, and so many more. But on a more positive note, I registered to vote recently, and I will use my voice in the next election. Thank you for fighting for my right to do that, and showing me the importance of my voice in the government. Because of you, we know that change and freedom is possible.
Dear Dr. King, my name is Alana. I'm 17 and an aspiring artist. You helped solve a lot of problems, but not all of them. Still, you would be proud. Your generation questioned the man behind the curtain. Ours questions its existence and its purpose. 17 was supposed to be the age I felt empowered. Instead, I feel as if there is a void in me that can only be filled by speaking up. And Dr. King, I believe that's how a movement starts. I will speak the truth. I will let my anger and discontent be known. I will paint it, I will sketch it, I will photograph it. We cannot copy what you did. We can only rely on the past for knowledge, not direction. We will encourage each other to find our own path, and we will persevere.
Dear Dr. King, it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak with you. I'm a senior in high school down in Stone Mountain, Georgia, not too far from where you resided, and I'll soon be going to your alma mater. I will say, Dr. King, people really love what you've done. You changed the world, or at least you led the change, and then the people followed suit. You were a vital piece in God's plan. We truly appreciate everything you've done. You put in so much work. You've done things that not many other men could do. I wish I had the motivation that you had. Thank you, Dr. King, the one and only Omari Welcher.
Hello, Dr. King. I am Ronnie McCoy. We've made a lot of progress since 1968, but we still have a lot of progress to make. There are still people that hate the sight of people that have the same skin color as us. We still have restricted voting laws, and we still have protests due to the death of black people by the police. I'm still afraid to leave my house at night. I'm still afraid to get pulled over by the police. I'm still scared of the fact that I might not make it home when I leave my house. But every time I want to give up, want to quit, want to call all my efforts hopeless, I think of you. I think of your marches, your speeches, your fight, the jail time you served. I would be a fool to give up on America when you never did. My life for the past 3 years has been terrible. I used to rob people in their houses just so I can eat. At that time, I didn't think I would amount to anything but a jail cell. I became inspired once I started listening to your story. It made me feel like I was capable of making a change in the world and in my environment. So on this MLK Day, I not only want to remember the impact you have on this country, but the impact that you had on me. Sincerely, Ronnie.
King Day means the world to me. This year more than ever. And this past year, I have learned so much about your life and your contributions, but not just that. I've learned of your bravery, your efforts, and your words that still resonate with us to this very day. I will continue to do my part in carrying on the torch, passing it on to the next generation in hopes that the flame will grow and burn brighter and brighter in each passing generation. We all thank you, Dr. King, and happy birthday.
So, is it too late to sing him another freedom song?
It is never too late for a freedom song.
Dr. King, this is for you.
What will the people say when they hear that sound?
The sounds of people's voice shaking the ground.
Rejoice, 'cause the shackles broke off of our feet. The sounds of jubilee reaching the clouds. Our ancestors calling us back home. They've always been with us, so you're never alone. This land that I'm standing on, it don't belong to me. I'm finally home and I feel free at last. Yes, I'm finally home and I